Welcome back to the show. Today's topic: being a father or being a dad. It could be a single dad. It could be a stepfather. As long as you're a masculine figure and a father figure, it applies to the topic. So the reason I'm bringing this up is I don't think we're having a discussion as far as fatherhood in this new kind of culture we're I guess being born into. Since the feminine, the female is being championed, is being pushed ahead, and rightfully so, and is shown more equality, and being not given what I don't want to say given what is due, even though I guess that's the way it should be, but it's just giving them the equal rights that they have fought for, and seeked in a way that they want to live their life accordingly, or the way they want to see fit, and that's the right as an American citizen, as a woman in in this great country. But where does that put men now? I mean, you already see the movement, whether it be the red pill or the manosphere, where they're trying to champion just men, which is great. Again, do I agree with a lot of it or any of it or some of it? That's neither here nor there. The point being is that they're trying to champion, and they are championing the men, or the male aspect of it, and I've said it before. There's a place for it. There's a place for that kind of dialogue to occur. And yet, the only time we hear about fatherhood is in the negative term. Oh, he doesn't get to see his kids after a divorce. He doesn't, he's only a weekend dad. And, we only hear the negative side of fatherhood. And granted, yes, there is plenty of negative stories, but is that really the norm, or is that is that the case? And again, I'm not even pondering that question. It's just where are we in fatherhood? What is acceptable, what isn't acceptable? How do we approach certain topics? And for the most part, I think like both men and women, we've allowed this new technological wave to kind of raise our kids, to kind of plant stuff in there that we're not ready yet to talk about. I mean, you accidentally, walk into your kid watching something on a tablet, on a phone, or something, and all of a sudden, boom, that conversation or a conversation occurs, and maybe you weren't ready for it. And again, I think it's not a man, or a man issue. I think it's just both. Being a parent, these kind of issues come. So where does that put fathers and the roles that we have in our little girls and our little boys, and how do we go about raising them? We have two condescending, or maybe not condescending, contradictory message. Yet I wrote it down, and the best way I could start off by saying is, like, for girls, right? Like, as a dad, I'm a father, and I only have girls, so I can't even speak to boys. As far as, like, if I ever wanted to get into a discussion as how to raise boys, but I have three girls, and given in and let's just start off with that aspect. Being, if you're a father, a again, single, father with the wife or the girlfriend, you guys are still together, stepfather, again, just a father figure, and you have girls, that you're raising, like, to be masculine, which is what the role of a father is, right? To have that masculine, supportive, rock kind of energy, like you could be dependable, uh take the lead, kind of, as the saying would be, the quote unquote alpha, the leader, just the one that has the directive, the direction. And then in having to in modern terms, the empowering movement of women, and having to have that message given in a way that it's receptive, that it doesn't seem like contrarian. It's just a very difficult. It's a fine balance because, how many and some men, don't get me wrong, have perfected it, but it's a fine line when you're trying to be a leader and then you become, overpowering, where they won't look at you, being that disciplinarian, that having structure and stuff nowadays can seem kind of child abusive, kind of. So it just depends on your upbringing, I guess, where you are in the country, or just what you feel comfortable with. But just in general, how is it that you have, for men, we have to balance these two, with especially with our little girls, like how to be a masculine figure, and then yet also not more or less be empowering, but then, have, well, yeah, just, be having them, keep on going and cheering them, and not kind of, not crushing them, because fathers, tend to, you know, we guard our little girls. So it's never like we're trying to be negative, but sometimes in that protection, we tend to sometimes discourage our little girls from doing some things. Like I remember when my daughter said she wanted to join the military, and I'm all for the military, but I was just not gonna have that, as far as her, just because at the time the reputation of the, or women in military wasn't all that great. And to a point, I felt like I almost had to crush that dream to get her to, focus on something else. Now, was that right as a father? Was that correct that I did that? At the end of the day, she made up the decision on her own, and, focused on her, coding, or computer coding, and whatnot. um but, how is it, where at what point, do, as a father, you with the tattoos, with the, you know with the music that they're listening to, just the clothes that they're wearing, like, at what point do does the father come in, or do we even have a voice to be able to tell our girls, hey, don't dress like that? And given, open up your door, go outside, go to your local mall. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think men are failing at this, and it's because, obviously, mothers and daughters are like, oh, it's fine, this is what women are now dressing, it's empowering, but, for men to balance those two is so difficult and so hard. How it's, almost like black and white. You can't do so. Men are just cocooning, or cocooning, or going in their cocoon, and not being, just sticking into their own environment, kind of regurgitating, so I'm just gonna not, uh you know rock the boat, and I guess I'm out of touch, I guess I'm the one that's incorrect, I guess I'm the one that's old, I'm the one that is in the wrong here. But when is it okay for men to just, again, I'm not expecting anybody to agree with what I did with in my situation with my daughter, and say, hey, you know what, like I said, sabotage is probably the wrong thing. I know people will probably get the wrong idea when that word is said, but I definitely discouraged it. I just didn't see it as for her. And again, only if just, I know my daughter, and I know it wasn't something, it was just how we all freak out when we all are in that stage of life. We I had it, I had a serious thought whether I was going to go into the military or not. So we've all been there, and it was just something that, if it would have been a different, how when people come to you with a different attitude, they know, and there's no way you're gonna, discourage them from that. That's one kind of energy. There was so much confusion in that. So, and it just made it convenient that I already had these preconceived fears on top of it, that, that's why I said sabotage. But it was more, like I said, discouraged. Try to make her look, look at something alternative, something different, that wasn't gonna be, shipping her off into. What was that leadership? Was that being a father figure and taking control of my daughter? I don't know. That's up for debate. But at what point is it okay to step in? Is it okay to take the lead? Is it okay to say, you know what, no, this is what I'm gonna set my foot down. You can't put that dress, you can't wear those short shorts, you can't do this, have that discussion with your mom. But in that fear, you can't have those, because how many times does one of those bursts lead to divorce, lead to a separation, lead to a fight? And men don't want to do that. We don't like arguing. And let's just get off of girls for a second and just jump on men. Like being a father to a boy, also, how confusing is that now? You have to be you're trying to still be the masculine figure in your son's life, but society is pushing a not people call it a feminization of men. I just call it a shivering, or chivalrous is the nicest word. Like being, chivalrous is a nice term for it. It's being submissive. Whether it's wrong or not, I don't know. The only other example I could pop in my head is when the I think the era where Greeks or Roman, I can't, my mind's like losing it right now, but Greeks or Roman, when they worshipped women and they were submissive to women in their society. And there's poetry about it, there's definitely text about it. So it's definitely that kind of culture we're in, right? A very men need to be submissive, need to be, chivalrous, men need to be tolerable, men cannot be picky, men need to be the ones that, settle is a weird way to say it, but it's just a different kind of environment that we're doing. So we're fighting again two opposing energies here. And how do we teach our young boys how to be men, how to be, direct, how to be straightforward, how to be goal orientated, how to not take critique, because all it is gossip news, gossip articles. This person did this. Oh, look, he's a loser. This person did this. Oh, he's a champion. He's the number one. Well, it's all about titles and it's all about this. And if you don't, for men, if you don't get enough money, if you don't drive this car, you haven't reached, you're not a man yet. You're not successful yet. But yet, it's all about, submissive, taking a back lead. You can't, be too demanding in the workforce. You got to kind of it's almost not encouraged. I've seen it myself where people have been promoted and been in line for a promotion. Well, before I get ahead, let's say you were being, you knew you went after a promotion and you knew you were gonna get it, or it was almost in the bag, and then out of the blue, something, the guy quits or whatever, or finishes off his term or retirement and heads into retirement, and then all of a sudden they call you into the office and say, hey, you know what, we're just gonna hire, a female because it's gonna look good. And again, those are, maybe I'm putting words in executives' mouths, but saying like, hey, we're bringing in so and so because we think it's, she's more qualified, and they'll give you that spill. And this is not a woman bashing, point here, because I would expect the same thing if it was the opposite way around for a man. But in this instance, for what should happen is a contest, right? You should contest it and say, hey, wait a minute, why is this person getting the job? I think I'm qualified, da 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 da, and yet they give it to a female. But you can't dispute that. You can't, you can't say, hey, you got to fight for it. You got to challenge her, because then you look like an ass. You look like a dickhead. You look like, a chauvinist pig, because you're contesting a woman's promotion and stuff like that. You're trying to hold her back and stuff like that. So it's almost like tying men's hands on how impactful we could be. So then, even you heard it all, you hear it all the time for from the manosphere or even psychologists about, how single women and are to the problem about, all the, the singleness that's going around is because of single women. And I'm like, not necessarily so. I think just it doesn't matter if you're single or if you're in a relationship or married, you know, society is empowering, women so much that in our voice, no matter if we have an opinion, it's it's like going against the tide. If I say no, don't wear those shorts that show off your butt, or society telling my girl dress like that. It's okay because look, it's in every store, it's in every music video. Oh, look, your friend's wearing it. Oh, look, even your mom's wearing it. So that, that dictates I could wear it too. But yet the only voice against it is my dad. So it's even if I try to tell my son, hey, be respectful, treat women with respect, open doors, be chivalrous, pay for the meal, and the first date or whatever. Right now, like I said, just an example. You can't say that because society is telling him different. Treat them like hoes. Treat these, like like you don't give a fuck about them. So again, I'm the odd one out. I'm the only voice going against the massive wave of culture, and it's not just coming from one sector of the internet or whatever. Look at the music. Look at the movies. Look at the TV shows. What are the messages that those things are all saying? We're glorifying cheating, infidelity. We're we're glorifying gossip and talking behind people's back. We're teaching our girls, being promiscuous and sleeping around is okay. We're teaching, all these kind of crazy things to our kids. So then when fathers try to step up, we're fighting a battle that we're not gonna win. So I think as men, not that this discussion is gonna fix anything, or I hope but what I do hope is we have more discussions as to what is the role now of men. Are we just deemed to just be there, be glorified trophy dads, just there? Oh yeah, I have a dad, but whatever, his opinion doesn't matter because I'm gonna do what I want, as Cartman says, whatever, I'm gonna do what I want. And that goes to both boys and girls. Whether you want to give your son the right message, society's telling them no. Don't focus. Don't worry about normal problems. Dream big and be a basketball player. Don't worry. Figure your life out, even if it takes you up to your 30s. So even if you want to push them to get a job at 18, 19, like we were pushed when we were young and we didn't have a career or anything like that, you can't do that. Oh, I'm still finding myself, dad. I'm still finding myself, dad. And you can't push them. You can't do shit because society's saying, yeah, you can't push him, or you're being too hard. Let him find his way. Let him find his path. So if it takes him to 30, 35, hey, that's what that's okay. And if you're this is not about if you're cool with it or not. That's what I'm saying. That's what the society is telling us. So even if you wanted to have a certain way of doing it, it's like we've passed so far, we've gone so far the other way, then now that way of saying it, or that way of hard love, that way of hard direct, say, hey, I needed that kick in the ass kind of approach is only left to when it's drastic. When we hear something drastic, and you get that, well, you know what? He needed that scolding. He needed that ass whooping. He learned his lesson, but he got it. Yeah, it sure sounded tough, but yep, it changed her life. But that's what she needed. But not many of us are okay with that happening to us. When it happens to someone else, that's when we say those words. But as men, we gotta start taking our jobs serious. We gotta be there. We gotta direct. We gotta put our feet down. We gotta be the odd man out. Too many fathers, both with their sons and their daughters, I want to be their friends. I want to be liked. I want them to enjoy memories of me, because of course, who wants to no one wants to be a hard ass and then be remembered as a dick. And oh yeah, my dad, he was a dick, when they when you're long gone and you're just you know looking down or up at them depending on where you go, and they're just talking about, yeah, he used to be a fucking hard ass. He just never let me, go out. He never, let me date. He never let me dress the way I want. I wanted to do. So I get it. No one wants to have that memory, but yet we are meant. We're put when we have kids. That's a whole different responsibility that comes to us. We're supposed to, no matter if it's little girls or boys. Or let me stop saying little girls because it sounds creepy, and little boys sounds creepy. These young men and women. We are as men and not just men, father figures. Stepfather, single father, or father in a relationship or married or whatnot. If you are a father figure, it is our jobs to be able to set down these fundamental things to these kids so that they have a quicker turnaround time, that they don't go into their 30s and 40s finding out shit like we're doing. How we were a lost I want to say a lost civilization, a lost generation. Like I want to call like the ones that are like 35 to 45, we're just a lost generation. Like we had to learn everything because our parents were learning everything, and we were just like the I want to say the test baby, I guess. The test babies from that age. Sadly, from 35 to 45, and I'm included in that range. We were the fuck ups. But we have to be able to dictate a better way now that we're learning at a later age how to teach our kids and put our foot down, even though society, even though culture is telling them, no, hey, this is the way it's going. And again, whatever your personal belief is what is. It is what it is. I could be saying something that might not be ringing to you. You might be saying, fuck, what is this crap? If my kid wants to dress however she wants to dress and paint her hair however she wants to paint and get tattoos, and I'm going to sign off on them, hey, that's what makes America great. Is that as long as it's right, as long as it's within the rights. That's how I started it. As long as it's within the rights, hey, you're more than okay. As long as you're meeting the basic needs, I guess, and not violating any wrongs, you can't really do nothing. So hey, if she's happy, you're happy, you're making memories. Hey, we only live once, as the old school saying went, YOLO, whatever the fuck the phrase is now. Do you, so it might not be bringing to you, but it should be okay for us that we bring someone else into this life. And being a father to these, men and, these young women and young men, we should be able to at least be able to set down be able to have a role, be able to have a voice, and a voice that is taken seriously, not as a fucking trophy. Not like, yeah, I just have a dad. Like it's some kind of, it's nice when you hear it in shows like Modern Family and all these kind of like, oh, they get it afterwards, even though they get made fun of the whole episode, but yet afterwards, they're like, oh yeah, well, dad had a point. We got the moral value of the message, and oh, awesome, look at our father. That's not, that's not the way it goes now. Now it's like we're fathers by title only, and when we say something is in one ear and out the other. And it's time to grab, our strength back as fathers, and our voice back as fathers, and be able to be taking ourselves seriously. So, I hope this broadens up a discussion, makes you think, if you're a father, single father, of a boy and girl, like, what's your role in it? Think about it. Look at your son, look at your daughter, and look at how they're acting. Look at how they're talking. Look at how they're moving. Look at how they're interacting. Look at how who their friend group is. And that'll tell you a good thing. And if you see something you disapprove of, try having a dialogue. Open up a dialogue. Or, find a way to, bring up your concern without violating their personal space or trying to infiltrate into their boundaries. But again, that's the whole point of this topic, is that it's hard. It's hard for men to understand where our voice is needed, or if it's even needed now, or if we're just there just taking space. So I hope I made you guys think. I hope you guys like the topic, like the channel, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for listening. Until next time.